Okay, I know I've made the point about tolerance and acceptance and all of that stuff many times. Don't worry, I'm not here to repeat myself. But I have noticed an uptick in people who are weaponizing the concepts of tolerance and empathy to basically help prove their points and deliver a little gotcha when they're arguing with people online. And we need to keep calling that shit out, because seeing the very people who seem to lack any sense of tolerance or empathy for beliefs that don't align with themselves, holding other people up to that standards when they clearly can't do it to themselves is just manipulative as fuck, and I don't think any of us should tolerate it. More importantly, if you are seeing people not liking our thing and your response is, well, I like the thing and therefore shut up, be tolerant of my view, I'm sorry, but the thing maybe shouldn't get tolerance. Maybe that's a point we need to make. In fact, fuck it, let's make that point and get into this shit, yeah? Okay, just a quick reminder. Empathy is the ability to see people's perspectives other than your own so that you can understand exactly how they came to certain conclusions, and then you can, go through things with a clearer eye. And tolerance is obviously being able to just agree and to disagree and to move on. And you accept that, oh, well, I don't fully agree with your point, but I do agree with your ability to have that point. Yay, freedom. And these two are very, important things for rational, mature, logical people to have in moderation, because, yeah, believe it or not, there can be too much of a good thing. Now, of course, with everything, there is too much of a good thing, and in this circumstance, you do see people that are very much married to the idea of being tolerant and being empathetic, and I can take everybody's stuff on board, and it's all valid, and you see them twisting themselves into knots to try and see the perspective of someone who clearly has the worst fucking take imaginable. And so, oh, well, they still think and feel that way, so it's still valid. Is it, though? Because they kind of think that you shouldn't be allowed to exist, and I don't really give a shit if you can understand how they came to that conclusion. It doesn't really mean whether or not you should tolerate it or agree that they're allowed to have it. I mean, if someone come to me and was like, yeah, well, the moon isn't fucking real, I'm like, well, here's all this evidence. Yeah, well, I just believe it. I'm not going to be like, fair enough, yeah, you believe that. You go completely against provable science and fact. I'm just going to think they're a dick and point that out and be like, what kind of fucking person are you that you can see all this evidence and still not change your opinion? You're a wanker, Steve. You're a fucking wanker. Now, of course, there are limits to this. Not every viewpoint should be tolerated and not every perspective is valid to be considered, okay? Now, case in point, nobody who does evil shit in this world is doing it because they think and know they are bad and evil. No, they all think they're the good guy. They all think they're doing what's right and that they're doing it for righteous reasons. Taking on their viewpoint doesn't really mean much because their viewpoint is warped and wrong, and maybe it's misguided, miseducated, misled, whatever. In any case, it's wrong, okay? I don't want to get too nuclear with this, but do you really think the people that enacted genocides were doing it because, yeah, we're evil, we're going to be the bad guys? No, they thought they were doing something right because they were misled, and they had it in their head that they were doing the Lord's work. They fucking weren't. We shouldn't be seeking to understand those people other than from a viewpoint of, let's never get to that stage again. On the same point, this happens with tolerance as well. Not every fucking viewpoint is really worthy of being tolerated. For instance, people who are using their religious moral code to dictate who can and can't live together, who can and can't be valid, how people's rights are affected when it comes to abortion, gender identity, or gay marriage. No, there should not be any tolerance for that. You can believe what you want to believe, but that starts and stops at you. And the second it impacts someone else, it should not be tolerated. Because that's bad, because that's wrong, because you hate when people do it to you, right? There are limits to these things. And it's those limits which a lot of the people that weaponize this shit seem to hate because they need this level of tolerance to get away with their bullshit. They also need this level of empathy. We can't fucking let that continue. So the way that I see this being argued with and used a lot is when people try to apply empathy and tolerance to the people that are arguing with them without actually applying it to themselves. For instance, we've seen this with certain people arguing about cops and ACAB and all of that stuff, and they're like, yeah, well, I had a positive experience and you should be able to take that on board. People have, okay? They have taken that on board, that some people have had positive experiences with the police. You also have to take on board that the police has a very negative connotation due to certain things, like this shit. And the fact that you're expecting people to disregard all of this sort of systemic shit that's happened in the past that was wrong because of something you personally experienced, you're asking other people to have more tolerance and empathy than you're willing to operate under yourself. And that's the really fun part, because deep down you know why other people are pissy. You just don't agree, but you don't want to outright say that. You're trying to defend your point. You're trying to be a PR manager here and not really be honest. You're just going to vague your way out of this wet paper bag, and not very fucking successfully. Because you can throw that like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be empathetic. And that people are going to backtrack and likely, but also maybe not. Maybe we're not going to have empathy for you because you don't have it for other people. See, this is the two-way street. And if you refuse to tolerate other people, you refuse to have their perspective in mind when it comes to very sensitive topics like this, then why the fuck should anybody give that to you? Why is that owed to you but not to other people? You don't get to play this rigged game, motherfucker, okay? When you say stupid shit and you don't care about other people's perspectives on this shit, you will wear the consequences. And trying to throw shit like this up in defense, it just isn't gonna fucking work. And the real dangerous part is that it's being weaponized, and it's being weaponized very effectively. Now, you see, you have one side which very much cares about being tolerant and empathetic and righteous, and you have another side that doesn't. They actually see it as a bad thing. In fact, they've actually gone on record as saying, like, empathy is a problem and we shouldn't have it. By the way, that's the definition of psychosis, but okay. And this is where we have the weaponized problem, because it's easy for them to attack us on that. Because if they know that you're trying to be empathetic and tolerant, then they can just push you to extremes and say, well, should we tolerate this nasty shit? Should we be empathetic towards murderers and rapists? Because they know that you pride yourself on this label, and if they attack the label, they got you backtracking and fighting a fight that they know they could win, rather than the one that you wanted to fight that they know they will lose. And more importantly, they know that they're not tolerant and empathetic, and we would normally attack people because we prize that by saying, oh, you lack tolerance, you lack empathy. And if we do that to ourselves, we go, no, I don't. Really honest, I'm a good person. We do it to them, they go, yeah, and? That's a hard one to fucking fight when you're basically just dealing with a massive piece of shit who is incapable of seeing anyone outside of themselves as valuable or valid. That's fucking hard to fight, and that's exactly the sort of shit we need to stamp out. It is inhuman, essentially. It's fucking awful that we have people that are so self-minded like that, and you need to be wary of it. Really hope that people can fucking get that point, because goddamn, that seems to be one of the biggest problems of the day at the moment. Did that make sense? Am I on the right page here? I feel like I am. Too many people are wielding the stick of, yeah, you say you're tolerant, but you're not. Well, maybe some things we shouldn't be tolerant about. Maybe some things we shouldn't be considering. Maybe empathy isn't for every single issue under the sun. And more importantly, maybe that's not what you're actually seeking out anyway. Maybe you just want a gotcha to win this argument. Maybe deep down, you know you're wrong, but you can't backtrack now because this is the hill you have accidentally chosen to die on, and you're sure as shit gonna fucking die on it because that's easier than admitting fault, huh? I don't get it, but we see it all the goddamn fucking time. We see it with so many different issues, and the fact that you have the balls half the time, these people, to come out and be like, oh, you say that you're all tolerant and empathetic, well, where's that? Well, yeah, good question. Where the fuck is it? Because it's a two-way street, cunt. You will be treated how you treat others. We are mirrors, okay? We will hold up that mirror, and if you don't like what you see, then that's on you, cunt. But thanks for watching. I hope this video made sense. I'm sure you can apply this to a lot of situations because it seems real fucking relevant. But if you would also like to support me, there's ways to do that. There's a Patreon right there and shit. There's also other ways in which you get feet pics and paw pics and stuff, which you're definitely going to want to check out. You should definitely look at that. Still advertising shamelessly, despite the important point that I'm making. But that's my brand, so there we go. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we're done. Bye!